this is John from the Pick Slide, and I'm here with Caleb.
What's up?
Alright, Caleb, what do we got here?
Well, we're going to be looking at the Deluxe Memory Man, the infamous and perfect Deluxe Memory Man. I believe this is the first reissue of it, so it doesn't have the attached power cord. For anybody who cares. There's probably like 5 people. That's okay. And then we're going to kind of be comparing it to this really cool pedal made by Mercy Seat Effects. One of my friends owns that company, and it's American made in Germany. Because he's originally from Indiana and then moved to Germany. And he's a great dude and really talented. So he custom made this for me a couple of years ago. And it's pretty sweet, but I've always wanted one of these, so I went ahead and bought it too.
Nice.
And then I'm playing a Fender Telecaster. It's a custom made by Chris Morrell in Queens, New York. I don't really know if he makes like a lot of guitars, but he made this one.
Made that one.
And he wrote a story about it, and it's really good. So, Chris, I don't know if you'll ever watch this, but you're a genius. Yeah, this is the Tyler Amps PT14, which I think he just changed the name to JT14. But I'm not really sure why, but he can do whatever he wants because he's a genius. So, it's PT14, this one is. And the head and the cab version. And yeah, it's great. I love it.
Alright, well, let's take a look at the Memory Man. How's this thing sound?
Yeah, this thing is pretty crazy.
It's huge.
It's massive, but I think it's worth it. It's a lot of real estate, but it's on my board. Like, the hype is real. It's really good.
Yeah?
There's some kind of magic that happens inside of the massive enclosure that I don't think a smaller one can capture. So it's got a preamp in it, which is really cool because that's kind of like, you know, the old school thing. Like the Echoplex had a preamp. That's why like the EP booster was made and that whole thing. Like, gets that like warm tone, so you can actually get like an overdrive effect out of it if the delay's off. Just if I do clean tone, you can actually drive the preamp.
Yeah.
Pretty hard. Arguably one of the better overdrives I've heard too.
That's pretty good.
Which is pretty sweet. Yeah, so that's like one of its secret tricks, and it's got chorus and vibrato. It's pretty much all around just really awesome. My only complaint is the delay time isn't very long. I think it's like maybe 500 milliseconds, something like that, but that's like as long as you can get as far as like how far the delay goes, like the actual time of the delay. You can feedback like crazy, but as far as the space between the delays, that's it. So it's really more of kind of a quick little guy for, you know, just kind of like ambient stuff, you know. Pretty much how I've been using it is when I play like any sort of lead lines, or anything really of that nature at all, it's on in some stretch of the imagination, and I'll these are actually pretty easy to use with your feet, and so I just kind of bend down or I just kind of like use my toe and adjust it a little bit. Cool thing is, like, because you have so much control with it, like, you can use it as that pretty delay, you can use it as an overdrive, you can use it as, like, just a total wet delay, which is, like, you know, taking off all of your attack. Which is pretty crazy. Or, I mean, you could even use it as, like, just a chorus pedal, if you wanted to. If you have the delay off and just try to blend it. Very capable. So, yeah, the hype is real. It's pretty sweet. I kind of haven't stopped talking about it since I got it.
That's great.
Like a week ago.
So delay, chorus, vibrato. Overdrive.
I think the overdrive is sweet. If it didn't take up all the real estate, I would just buy another one just for an overdrive. Maybe not. It's kind of expensive. Yeah, I've seen these run anywhere from, I got mine for $275. I've seen them run anywhere from, I mean, that's one of the lowest I've seen, but They go all the way up to like $400, $600, like depending on, I mean, there's a difference between the chips, I guess. There was, I think the early model had, I think a 3005 chip is like the label of it, and then the later models got this 3008 chip. And it was like 2 of one or 4 of the other, and it's all the everything. Honestly, like, I'm not sure you could tell the complete difference. Maybe you can.
They were side by side, maybe.
Yeah, but I think that this is the second, the first reissue, the second model, if I'm right, because of the shape of the knobs.
Yeah.
So I think it's got that earliest chip in it, which is pretty cool. And they've made like 6 Memory Mans, because there was this one, and like all these reissues of this, and then they made the Memory Man XO, and then they made the Memory Man with the tap, the original one that had like the actual, I think, 3005 chips in it. They're like supposed to be phenomenal. Yeah. And then they made a new version of that with like new chips that are supposed to sound almost just as good. And like, there's just so many Memory Mans. Yeah. But this is the original. The one perk about the other ones though is they have a tap tempo and they're 1100 milliseconds, so it's like double the delay time of this, which I think is what a lot of people are kind of seeking after. Now
over here, speaking of real estate, this looks like a little bit more compact.
Yeah.
Tell me about this pedal here.
This is a little baby guy. This pedal is, it's really unique. It's super cool. Basically, Austin, the guy over at Mercy Seat, he's one of my good friends, and I have called him like 15 times asking him to make me some sort of a different, unique pedal. And this time I called him and said, well, I can't afford a Memory Man, nor do I have the room for one. I like the Memory Man, I like the deep blue delay.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you just make me an analog delay? And I was like, can you do a tap tempo too? He's like, sure. So this is what he did. And I think he even started selling some of these, but it's really good. Like, we even like side-by-side comparisons of like the 2 styles of delay. It's like, they're cool. Yeah. It's very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, I kind of changed the knobs for my own personal stuff, but basically what it is level, the time, which can also be controlled by tap tempo, which is a huge advantage over this guy.
Yeah.
Feedback, which I put a bigger knob on so I can be able to control with my foot and like, you know, self-oscillating and stuff like that. This is wetness, and then modulation. And the modulation on this thing can get like just as crazy. This really cool switch in there too, where it goes from quarter to 1/8 to 16th to be able to which is pretty sweet. It's a really nice feature because you don't have to tap so fast to try to hit that 1/8 or 16th mark. But it does a lot of the similar things. It has a way longer delay time, and the one thing about it though, and I think that is probably why the Memory Man doesn't have the longer delay time, is that it gets a little kind of like muddy, and you can actually hear some distortion. Which is kind of like sought after in a lot of ways. It's just that like analog distortion, like mushy goodness, you know. It's kind of like a little bit of grit in a way.
Yeah.
You can't do the overdrive thing so much on this one. You can a little bit, but if you turn the feedback totally off. You can a little bit, but it's not quite like the whole preamp thing.
Right,
you know? Yeah, it's a very capable delay with a lot less real estate.
Yeah. Why don't you bring up on the Memory Man a sound that you would, just kind of an overall sound that you like to use a lot?
Almost all the time, depending kind of, you know, nice subtle flow.
Yeah.
So, and then kind of like mimic that sound maybe on this.
Yeah, let's see.
You know, I never really had a name for this pedal. I don't really think he made a name for it because he just made it for me.
Well, there's a clock on it.
There's a clock on it, and so my wife called it the Timestopper, and I think it's a great name.
Harry Potter?
So, Austin, I'm sorry, but this is the Timestopper now. We'll call it the Timestopper. For all intents and purposes, that's pretty close.
Pretty close.
This has some sort of like compression or warmth. I mean, like it's got that pluckiness to it. Honestly, I think the single difference is the preamp. Like that warmth, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can watch it, this little light that keeps lighting up is an overload, and you can see it. Like, that's anytime the overload's getting just like a slight bit overloaded.
Now, what about like a dab and eighth delay? Can you pull it off with knobs?
Muddier than a digital,
Yeah.
but kind of runs over itself a little bit, but definitely at a shorter feedback.
Yeah, that sounds really good. But I bet, like, if you were playing the same songs, you know, in a set, you could probably start to get familiar with where the knob needs to be and get it pretty close so that it's gonna sync up pretty well.
Yeah, especially if you're doing more of like just like strumming instead of the like, you know, exact kind of things.
Right. Let's see. Can we do it on the Timestopper?
Love that name. Now this one has a tap, which is kind of cool. So if you wanted to do it, you could actually put it on the eighth and then like tap in and dotted eighth tones.
Sure.
And there's some noisiness that happens with some. I don't know if you can hear like the high pitch. Sometimes that can happen with some different, like, because it is analog. Like you'll get some grittiness out of it. I mean, it's the same thing that happens when you turn the feedback up and then delay high like that.
Yeah.
This sounds like the beginning of like an old movie. You know, like the little distortion thing. Anyway.
I hear so much modulation from this one.
Yeah, and that's controlled over here. I mean, it can go nuts. Or just turn it all the way off. It just loses its warmth. Yeah. It's definitely possible to do the dotted eighth thing. Again, it's not ideal, but with this, it's much more possible. I mean,
If you have the tap tempo.
yeah, I mean, you just have to actually tap in on the dotted eighth, which isn't a big deal. So that's how the tap works. I mean, you can go like
is in like a little bit more the sound is a little bit more strained out. Like it doesn't have necessarily all the maybe it's kind of what gives the Memory Man its richness and character. This is a little bit more like you're hearing the tone.
Sure.
But then as the repeats go, then the kind of almost high passes and like.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say because this has a tap tempo, it's definitely not an actual analog pedal. It's an analog voice digital pedal. Would be like I think would be the correct like terminology for it because it has a tap and because it has these extra switches for time, which means it's actually running through a digital chip.
Yeah.
As opposed to this being entirely analog, there's nothing digital about it.
Right.
It's got the preamp, it's got the whole thing. So this is more voiced, and so you might get a little bit more of that like direct tonality from the guitar.
Yeah, it just sounds like this sounds a little bit purer. I guess is what I'm saying. The Memory Man has a lot more body to it as far as like extra. Peeking that thing out. Great. What about how about a slapback?
Yeah. So this is kind of like a shorter slapback. I like to add a little bit of feedback on a slapback. Which acts a little bit like a spring reverb, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you wanted a little more of a traditional slapback sound. That'd be. Yeah, I mean, I haven't spent that much time with this pedal, but it's not that hard to dial in settings you want.
Yeah.
You just, it's got little markings. It's pretty easy to keep track of where you're at. And this one's fairly easy too. These controls actually, they're not typically like that. I definitely modded them, but it's a little bit easier.
I'm noticing.
So. And I like having the option of using the tap tempo or the time knob. And the time's a little bit, sometimes the time's just a little bit easier to use in certain situations. Like, I don't necessarily need a slap to be like a time, Yeah.
How would it sound if you make it a little more wet?
Let's add some wetness and some feedback.
Yeah, I think if you get the wet cranked up a little bit and get the feedback going, you can compare with the Memory Man.
They can, and I mean, overall, I don't know that there's like a better or worse. I think if you're going for the Memory Man tone, clearly it's Memory Man. You're gonna get a Memory Man,
Yeah.
and it's that warmth, and you're not gonna get that warmth out of the Timestopper, I don't think. But you're gonna get an analog sound delay, and I think that for the real estate alone, this is almost a quarter of the size of the pedal.
Yeah.
So you have like a quarter of the size of real estate, the same controls essentially. You don't have the vibrato option, but you have that chorus. Might be a little vibrato even once you crank it, but you have the actual like subdivision selector to choose like what subdivision you want. You have the tap tempo, there's a lot of perks to it.
Yeah, small size, tap tempo, the beat divisions, and Timestopper has, I'd say, a more clear tone to it, a little bit more precise with the tone. But then each each of the repeats on the delays seem to like the tone seems to like decay more.
Yeah, it gets a little thinner for sure.
Yeah, it thins out.
And this also gets to the point like we were talking about with the higher millisecond delay. It can stretch out as far as you want it to, but it's just going to get more and more distorted and make more noise.
Yeah.
Whereas like this is set to be exactly like it's not going to get any distorted. Its max length is its max length, and I mean this is it. Like that's as far as it goes. Whereas this you can make nice and dirty if you just like crank the time. It's like a scary movie.
Yeah, you can just hear how the whole EQ it just kind of like sweeps.
Yeah.
With the repeats, just kind of.
This has a very interesting oscillation like that.
I
It's
like
super
it.
unique. It doesn't like explode like the other ones, like this one. I mean, I don't know how often you use oscillation, but
yeah,
I mean, it's
like
just
a synth or something.
totally different.
Yeah.
Again, it's not a better or worse; they're just different.
Brad.
Yeah, good job, Mercy Seat. That's great.
Yeah.
And of course, good job, Electro-Harmonix. Nobody's arguing that this is one of the best delays ever made.